Hey everybody, Dark Skeleton here, and today we're going to burn some cards because, there's a lot of cards that are leaving Hearthstone pretty much forever because Wild Mode doesn't exist. No one cares about Wild Mode. Wild Mode is the equivalent of sending a card to hell. And we're going to do that with a bunch of cards that were from Naxxramas and Goblins versus Gnomes here today because screw these cards. Screw them to hell. Starting up, the Enoyatron. Now, not all of these cards on the list are obviously, top tier cards, but some of them are just really a pain in the ass. I don't think many people enjoyed going up against cards like Enoyatron. In ideal circumstances for the person playing it, it's like, I get to block Molten Giant attacks with this random 2-drop. Good job, Enoyatron. You really delayed the game and annoyed a lot of people off. But that said, Enoyatron did have its uses. In mech decks, pretty solid. I mean, Divine Shield's always good. You always need 2 sources of damage to kill it. But that said, screw this card. It is really annoying. Living up to that name, though. Next up, the Death Lord. Now, maybe I'm not the kind of person who really hates this because I like to play those trolley fatigue decks and the ones that just stall until basically the other guy runs out of cards. And Death Lord is really good at doing that. But say that you're going up against a Death Lord. Say that you just want the game to be over. Well, that doesn't happen so much with Death Lord because it's a minion that puts a lot of HP in the way of you just finishing out the game. If you're like a face deck, or you like to play face shaman, face hunter, you probably despise this card. So we're going to send it to hell. Screw the Death Lord. Next up, Deathspite. Wow, Deathspite. What a broken warrior card. Yeah, if you're playing a warrior deck, you 100% need Deathspite. Doesn't matter if it's patron, doesn't matter if it's control warrior. It is just an impressive card. You play it, you get a good swing on turn 4, you kill a minion off, but then the death rattle effect, the threat of the second swing of Deathspite, basically means, oh, you play more minions? How do you like having your board cleared? Muster for battle into this, I dare you. And if you wait, if you don't go charging in, then the warrior just has more time to do whatever he wants, like throw down an Acolyte of Pain and not only kill all your stuff, but draw cards from it too. It was an interesting card. It's not like it's a poorly designed card. It definitely had uses, and it definitely was a really good card. But I think we're all sick of it at this point in time. Screw Patron, Deathspite. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. All right. Next card. Oh, Dr. Boom. Okay, this one's obvious. I don't even need to say anything about Dr. Boom, but I will anyway. Yeah, 99 stats for 7 mana, and it blows up 2 to 8 damage. Super fair. 3 minions, 1 card. What a cancerous pile of garbage. Like, every deck plays this, and you're playing fair. You're playing a fair constructed match. Maybe you go card for card, but then suddenly they drop Dr. Boom and you don't have BGH. Congratulations, you lose because you've been tempoed out of the game by Dr. Boom. I don't even know if it was intended to be a tempo card. I thought it was just more supposed to be this big card in the control decks which crushes your opponent. But no, it's like, okay, it's the 7-drop. It's Dr. 6, or Dr. 7, the original Doctor. It's just what you play on turn 7 because it's that good. It doesn't matter what your deck is. If your deck plans on going to turn 7, that Dr. Boom is super good in the deck. So, yeah, we're sick of this card. Goodbye. And for those of you who paid 1,600 dust for it and are complaining about Dr. Boom being gone, really? Like, come on. You got your value out of it. You can disenchant it for 400 dust again. Like, whatever. Okay, Echo Medivh. I actually like this card. From the aspect of it lets me play forever. But that said, does it really deserve to be hated on? Kinda it does. I mean, when you get a good Echo of Medivh off, it's just like, really, you just played Ethereal Conjurer, you had a Sludge Belcher on the field, and now you Echo of Medivh. Or even worse, you do it with the Molten Giants, and you just get basically infinite value. It's like, well, so much for my control strategy. I guess I'll just get crushed by this now, as 2 more Ethereal Conjurers come down with 2 more spell draws, or 4 more Molten Giants, or whatever. It's not like it's really a terrible card for the game. It was interesting. It created the Echo decks. That said, Echo Reno maybe pissed a few people off. Oh, look, so I healed to 30, and now I'm going to do it again. But, yeah, I think we can be done with this card, and we'll just see what mages have in the future. So you can go back to wild mode hell. Next up, Goblin Blast Mage. Okay, I do kind of hate Mech Mage, honestly. So this card takes a lot of skill to play. Basically, you put a mech down on turn 3, and then it survives, and you play Goblin Blast Mage. Or, worst case scenario, you wait till turn 5, and you drop a Clockwork Gnome plus Goblin Blast Mage, and then you get a 5/4 that also deals 4 damage. Yeah, that's pretty strong, and given Mech Mage does need this card to really make the deck constructed viable, but come on, I'm just so sick of having my field blown away from this. If you play Paladin, like, oh, your muster for battle, all of it is just gone now as a battle cry, and then they still have a 5/4 minion. So Goblin Blast Mage and mech decks in general, you can go to wild mode hell too. Next up, Hunted Creeper. Okay, so this is kind of a weird card in that it makes its way into a lot of more aggro decks. It makes sense for the sticky type decks like Zoo, where you're just fighting for board control. But then this card's pretty good in aggro decks anyway, because your opponent has to remove it eventually, like they have to remove everything on your board. But it's got a lot of stats packed into it, like 3/4 for 2 mana, yes, across 3 minions. But it's just a very annoying card. It's more annoying, arguably, than Nerubian Ag. At least with Nerubian Ag, you know, it's not going to do anything until it comes out, and then you're dealing with 4 damage. With Haunted Creeper, it's like, yeah, you can ignore it, but then it's still going to be poking you for 1 damage every turn, or it's going to kill your 1/1s off, or whatever. Or you could even use a Flame Tongue Totem, and then it becomes super good, for obvious reasons. And, yeah, I guess we should just say, you know, Death Rattle in general. Screw Death Rattle. You can go to Wild Mode Hell. We don't need you anymore. We're just going to be playing with removal and cards. No Death Rattle. No get 5 more minions from your 1 minion. I mean, we still have Canned Bloodhoof, but in general, I think I've had enough of that, and I think everybody else has too. Next up, the Healbot. So, recently, the Healbot actually hasn't been that impressive in the game meta because aggro decks just push so hard right now, largely thanks to the recent sets of cards, that basically, if you play Auntie Killbot, you're dead anyway because it's not enough tempo on the board. Really, I should be hating on tempo decks because, you know, it's like, oof, I play Doctor 1 through Doctor 7 and I win. And I don't just mean Secrets Paladin, I mean pretty much any deck like that. Okay, Paladin, Shredder, Water Elemental. You know, you play really strong cards that push your opponent out of the game. But with Auntie Killbot, you can basically force your opponent to waste burn on you, and then you heal back up to full. And yeah, it's kind of nice when you play it on yourself, but it's kind of annoying to deal with. It's like, you gotta play these 50-hour-long games. Oh, he has 2 anti-Killbots. I guess he's just gonna heal back up to full. And maybe I don't really have that many negative things to say about anti-Killbot, but we've had enough of this card. I think arguably we've had enough of Reno Jackson too, but he's gonna stay around for another year at least. So for now, anti-Killbot, screw you. You can go to Wild Mode Hell too. Next up, Implosion. Okay, so this card either betrays you, and you roll 2. It's like, oh, I got 2 imps, and I deal 2 damage, not even killing a minion off for 4 mana, and you lose the game basically because you don't get enough tempo. Or it can be the other end of the spectrum where you kill off a 3 health minion or a 4 health minion in some rare cases, and then you get 3 or 4 imps, and you just get so much value that it's like, why even bother competing with a Zoo Warlock for the board? He's just going to get infinite minions, and you just can't outboard a Zoo Warlock so easily. So this card has a lot of value in it. I don't know if I like the RNG aspect so much anymore because, literally, games sometimes come down to, did you roll a 4 on your Implosion or did you roll a 2? Oh, but when it's played against you and it gets too much value, oh, that is so sad. But when you play it yourself and you don't get enough value, it's also so sad. So just a sad card in general. Implosion, I'm done with you. You can go to Wild Mode Hell. Next up, Light Bomb. Okay, so I do actually like Priests a lot. And as Light Bomb went on and on, getting into more Priest decks, and it's been out for a while now, or a long time now even, I do accept that Light Bomb is a pretty sick card for Priest decks. It's really core. It just blows the field away, prevents you from getting out-tempoed, and really currently, necessary in a lot of control priest decks. And let's be honest, the only priest deck is a control priest deck at the moment. Yeah, pretty much. So Light Bomb, I hope that they add more cards. I know that they will add more cards and that pretty much substitute in for this. But one card being the core definition of how a priest survives for this long, it's had its run. Light Bomb, good job keeping priest alive as a deck, but I think we're done with you. Get us some new cards. Loatheb. Okay, this card I do loathe to hate. I mean, I do loathe this card. Whatever I mean, screw Loatheb. Loatheb is basically like, oh, well, I played super craftily so that I would prepare for this turn where you might have a response to my tempo play. But then I play Loatheb, and all your spells are useless. You can't do your Shadow Flame bullshit. You can't do your Twisting Nether. You can't Light Bomb the field. And basically, you have to put down 6 taunts, which I know you don't have in your hand, or the giants I just put on the field are going to absolutely crush you next turn. So, Loatheb fitting that, clinch, seal the game out idea, it's a cool idea, and it's really effective, especially at the higher levels of play from what I've seen. But I think we've had enough of that shit. Like, Loatheb basically says, if you play a spell-heavy deck, screw you. Like, Miracle Rogues, Loatheb can be really effective against them. Or any mage that's relying on a Flame Strike to clear the board. So, we've had enough of you. Loatheb, screw you. Go to Wild Mode Hell. Next up, Loatheb again. Apparently. Okay, Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist is a BS card. Single-handedly basically made Secret Dex or Secret Hunter and Secret Mage really strong. And by that I mean that every Hunter and every Mage deck, except for the Gazrilla control deck, which was really unique, pretty much runs 2 copies of Mad Scientist for good reason, because it's like a 2-mana card that brings out a 3-mana card, so you get 5 mana for 2 mana, or 4 mana for 2 mana in the case of a Hunter deck, and that's really, really good. But it's been such a core card that like there's no room for anything else. Why would you not put Mad Scientist in your deck? So in order for the game to evolve, Mad Scientist has to go out the window, and I think as far as being sick of getting tempoed out by a Mad Scientist drawing into a secret because I happened to not have a silence for it, sick of that crap, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. So Mad Scientist, to hell with you. Next up, Micro Machine. Now this card basically never sees playing constructed, but I'm still really salty about a arena match I played maybe a week or 2 ago, where what happened was, so Paladin, he plays Micro Machine on turn 2. I don't have an immediate answer on the board for it. I put down an answer, like a minion, that's going to respond to it in a turn, assuming he doesn't kill it. And then he basically coined True Silvered, or basically put down Seal of Champions, killed off my minion. I think it was Seal of Champions, and then True Silver for my next answer. And Micro Machine, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and that's fine. That's what the card's designed to do. But if you're in the situation in Arena where you basically have no direct answer spells, and then your opponent just happens to have answers like, ooh, I put a Divine Shield on my minion, or ooh, I have a True Silver for your next 2 minions, then it's like, okay, so basically what you're saying is, I just lose because I don't happen to have a spell which can kill a 2-drop. Yep, so then you get smacked for 7, 9, 11 damage, and you're dead. Yay. Given that doesn't happen often, and it is kind of funny to watch that happen, although kind of frustrating too. Micro Machine and mech decks, also. Gotta keep mentioning mech decks. We're done with you. To Wild Mode Hell with you. That said, Wild Mode isn't exactly hell, because it's still fun to play. I'm still going to play Wild Mode. You should be playing Wild Mode too. Like, Standard's great and all, but, I mean, relax. Sometimes you just got to put together something really fun. Or really cancerous. Mostly cancerous. Like any deck with Dr. Boom. Maybe I won't play Wild Mode. Dr. Boom is kind of cancer. We like super cancer. Anyway, Muster for Battle. Muster for Battle. This card, it's just really strong, you know. Paladin, 1, 2, 3. Zombie Jail. Shield Minibot. Muster for Battle. Win the game. Especially if you follow it up with Piloted Shredder. It's the perfect curve. Muster for Battle might as well be Dr. 3 for Paladins. 3 1/1s and 1/4 weapon for 3 mana. It's really strong. Great combo with Knife Juggler. Not a whole lot of counterplay to it. I mean, you can swipe, but that's like 1 card for 1 card, and then he still has the weapon. So This card's just too strong, and that's why it needs to leave the game. Cards that are just too strong, it's fine that they're leaving because there's no room for anything else. And although Muster for Battle's cool, I do like Paladins, and you know I'll play the card, but we're all sick of it. We know Muster for Broken is just really strong. So you can go to wild mode hell, retire, live a long life in wild mode retirement home, but we're done with you. So Nerubian Egg. Basically this is like a complaint on Zoo decks, but you play a Nerubian Egg on the field, you know exactly what's coming next. You're not fooling anybody, Mr. Zoo player, when you play a Nerubian Egg, and you're like, ho ho, the power overwhelming in my hand will automatically trade for anything he plays. It's like, yes, we know you're pretty much going to Defender of Argus or power overwhelming it. And it's true, there's not a lot of like counterplay to it. You can silence the minion, and that works all right. But really, beyond that, it's just they're going to get a 4/4 Nerubian eventually. I mean, I guess that's okay. It fits really well into Zoo. Not a whole lot of other decks, but Zoo as a deck isn't really going to change with this card there. It's another one of those, it's just super strong, always in the meta, and everybody knows how it works. Everybody's sick of how it works. No one likes getting power overwhelming Nerubian Eggs. Kind of even worse when there's a Void Terror, but I mean, how much has Void Terror really been viable? I do like using Void Terror with the minion, but anyway, it's really strong. Zoo decks need to change a bit, so I'm okay with this card leaving. I'm okay with all the cards leaving, actually. So, Olga Brute. Olga Brute. What do we have to say about this one? It's really strong in Arena. Maybe it's just that mages get like an unfair advantage when it comes to drafting, but any competent mage deck in Arena seems to have one of these on turn thing. It's just like, oh, so you played a 4/4. You know, I can't hate Olga Brute. It's funny when he misses. It is funny when he misses. And it's not constructed viable, but we're sick of these cards. We're sick of all GVG cards, aren't we? And Naxxramas, especially Naxxramas. Okay, vote down below. Let me know if you're super sad about Goblins versus Gnomes and Naxxramas leaving standard mode, because honestly, I don't really give a crap. I think that's the last card. No, of course it's not the last card I put on this list. Piloted Shudder. Do we even have to talk about Piloted Shudder? I wish it proc to Doomsayer more often so that the people who play it get punished by it. Like, there should be more negative drawbacks to it. But there really isn't much. It's super value. You get 2 minions for the price of 1. It's better in almost every way than pretty much every fortune in the game. I mean, you could argue, like, oh, okay, then at least Starseeker's better, because at turn 30, it gets you a golden monkey. Or Sinjin Shieldmaster's better because it's a taunt minion. But, you know, in reality, Piloted Shudder's just so hard to deal with. It's a centerpiece in mech decks. It's just been too strong. It needs to go. It just needs to go. Also, the RNG mechanics. To win the game because you get Millhouse, or lose the game because you get Doomsayer. Not so great. Quartermaster. This is actually a card I really like. I don't know why I put this on the list. More is kind of a sad card. Oh, it used to be really strong, I think, before TGT, where like mid-range Paladin without the Secrets Paladin crap was really popular. And it would be like, well, Muster for Battle onto Quartermaster. You get tons of value out of that. And, you know, that's pretty okay. Quartermaster was the kind of card that a Paladin deck would need to keep relevant. And personally, I do like playing Quartermaster decks still a little bit. Because, you know, I'm all about those weird control Paladin decks that don't exist anywhere else in the meta. That said, it is really brutal when someone plays a Quartermaster and they have 5/1/1s on the field. It's just like, oh great, so you get 15 of stats for like 2 cards or something, or more than that, because really it's like 17, 20 of stats. Having 2 guys on the field. Let's say you played Jessica Trueheart some previous turn. Hero power, Muster for Battle, Quartermaster. That's 5/1/1s, which become 3/3s, so 15, 15, plus 2 and 5, so 17, 20 of stats, plus a 1/4 weapon. And that is pretty ridiculous. That said, usually doesn't turn out that way, and Quartermaster is a slow card, so it's not like it's breaking the meta right now. I'll say this is more of a rest in peace card, worth mentioning. It'll be kind of interesting to see Will Control Paladin be a thing at all when it's missing cards like Quartermaster? Are they going to have any more Silver Hand recruit cards? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Anyway, to hell with you. Shield Maiden. Okay. So, Control Warrior. I think we're pretty sick of that. Yes, we know Warriors can get a lot of armor, especially with Justicar Trueheart. Congratulations, you became a 50 armor, 30 health warrior. And you stalled the game for a really long time. And Shield Maiden just adds more stats on top of that. So, pretty hard to rush down a warrior after they've gotten to that point. And that's fine from a, okay, this is how the warrior class works strategy. But come on, Control Warrior, we're so sick of seeing that, so sick of seeing that. I think that goes double for Fatigue at this point. Most people can't even play Fatigue Warrior that well. It's just kind of sad. Like, when you go to Fatigue against the Fatigue Warrior, and then the Fatigue Warrior loses anyway. Kind of funny. Or Elise Warrior goes to Elise, does it too soon, has no answers to any of your plays, and then it's like, oh great, so I can drop anything I want on the field, and there's nothing you can do about it but play a big minion. Good for you. Anyway, Shield Maiden, just another one of those cards. These cards need to leave the meta so things can change. So, yeah, it's not so bad that these cards are leaving in reality. It's just they can't be topped. How do you top a shielded mini-bot without making like a mega bot 3/3 divine shield for 2 mana, completely making the 4 mana 3/3 divine shield the Silver Moon Guardian completely obsolete? You really can't. Shielded Minibot, pretty much as good as a 2-drop can get without power creeping the game. So, and since it's played in every Paladin deck, and the Divine Shield can be a bit of a pain in the ass to deal with, yeah, we're sick of it. I think we're sick of Secret Paladin. Things need to change. Also, Redemption into Shielded Minibot. Kind of annoying. Kind of predictable when you see it played, but that said, not so sad about it leaving. Shrinkmeister. Now, you might think, oh, what could I hate about Shrinkmeister? And this is a personal thing, but I am sick of having my Ysera taken by Shrinkmeister. Yes, I know, the correct way to play against the priest is to make sure that they play their Shrinkmeister Cabal before you play your Ysera, but it's just so sad. It's like, okay, I have to play the Ysera because I'm playing Control Warrior or something, and then you're like praying that they don't have it, but no, they mind control your Ysera for free, and have a 3/2, and have a 4/5. And yes, when I saw those cards, initially the Shrinkmeister, when GVG was about to come out, I was like, oh man, that is such a sick combo, and it really is, actually. It really is completely busted. So this will let me play my Ysera against Priest again. That's a good thing, I think. Maybe Mind Control, the classic Mind Control will come back. Maybe not. Maybe they'll just give Priest another answer. Also, honorable mention here, Vol'jin. Vol'jin would be way too much value against the Ysera as well. So, yeah, cards like that. I'd kind of like to be able to play my big cards without feeling bad about it. Sludge Belcher. Yeah, okay. I may be a control player and I may play a lot of Sludge Belcher, but I acknowledge this card is basically as BS as Piloted Shredder is. It's a 5 mana 3/5 that death rattles into a 1/2, both of them having taunt, total 4/7 stats, minimum amount of cards that your opponent basically needs to use in a turn to remove it. Not necessarily lose the cards, but basically they need 2 answers to get through it. Unless they're just going to silence and leave it up as a 3/5, in which case it's still a 4 mana basically a bad Yeti. Ooh, but the Sludge Belcher, it is like the definition of modern control decks, and we're sick of it. It's been around since Naxxramas. It's not going to be upseated. It needs to go. So, Sludge Belcher, thanks for keeping me alive, but I think we're done with you. Snow Chugga. Okay, not exactly a busted card. Definitely a staple in Mage, which isn't even played that much currently, but yeah, maybe this is more of an arena thing, but I'm so sick of having my face frozen as the person going up against the mage. And, you know, in most cases, it doesn't even do anything that's really that dramatic. It's like, congratulations, you froze my face so I can't play the true silver I don't have in my hand, or I can't dagger up and stab your minion. But man, when people play Snow Chugger, they really value the Snow Chugger's freeze effect against weapon decks. It's like, so you'll trade everything just to keep your Snow Chugger alive. You'll throw a fireball at my minion to keep your Snow Chugger alive, just so that he can keep seeing the the really delicious effect of freezing my face and preventing me from playing the weapon I don't even have. And it's just kind of annoying, you know? It's in the same vein as Annoyatron. It's not dramatically changing the game in most cases, but I don't like having my face frozen. It's just really annoying. So, Snow Chugger, Mage, yeah, okay, you guys can go. Had enough of your BS. Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil. I definitely made mention of this in my 20 standard cards leaving the Hearthstone standard mode game. Because this card just defines Rogue at the moment in most cases. Oil Rogue is the main way that Rogue is played competitively right now, and, you know, for good reason. If you combo it, you get a ton of stats. It's a really sick card. It's great with Blade Flurry, which is also kind of a busted card. Yeah, I think it was Maz kind of pointed this out. Maybe it was Trump, but Blade Flurry not only clears your board, but also does burst damage on your opponent's face. So, thinking of it like that, like, oh, 4 damage to your opponent's face and your opponent's field for 2 mana. Pretty good. It's like a Mega Flame Strike, given it takes 2 cards. But, yeah, it's really strong. Oil Rogue is getting kind of old. Rogues need to change. Can they change without this card changing? It's hard to say. Yeah, I think maybe the game will be a bit healthier, be able to change when this card isn't there. Tinkertown Technician. Going back to my mech hate, this card, if it gets played when you have a mech on the field, like an Annoyatron, for instance, 4/4 for 3 mana, super strong. 4/4 for 3 mana that also gets you a spare part card, pretty much ridiculously strong. Kind of in the same vein as the Shady Dealer in a Pirate Rogue deck, but actually played because Mech Mage is a thing, or Mech Decks are a thing. Mech Shaman was a thing at some points in time. And yeah, I'm aware that not even every mech deck plays 2 copies of this card, but when it does come out and it's played, it's just like, oh, so I basically lose the game. And, you know, it's fine, you know, give mech decks a reason to be played as a mech deck, but kind of sick of dealing with it, you know? It's just really strong tempo-wise. It's like, well, I guess as the control deck, you basically draw your AoE, or you lose to basically being crushed by piloted shredders and Tinkertown Technicians. So, yeah, not as bad as piloted shredder, but I think it's fair to say done with that card as well. Melons Chosen. Okay, this is a card I personally will use the hell out of, given I like to play Priest. Basically, you take your 1 attack minion and you make it something that kills just about anything on turn 1, 2, 3. Really good. Really good if you play it on a Northshire Click. Really good if you play it on a Museum Curator. In fact, it's so good, I'm not sure that Priests could dramatically change again without, basically without this card being removed. I'm not sure about the Shadow Priest, whether that plays Melons Chosen, the Shadow Priest being the one that turns in the Shadow form, of course. But this card's really good. Makes Holy Nova fantastic. Makes it really good to trade on the board as a Priest, but, you know, it's been pretty core for a while now. It's been out for a while now. Priest, I mean, yes, taking this away from Priest will definitely hurt Priest. But I'm ready for some new Priest cards. Give us another way to compete with the board. Like, what can we do as a Priest with our 1/2 Museum Curator to maintain the board against a tempo deck, other than having a big AoE? Give us another option for that. I want to see what Blizzard can come up with. Oh boy, Void Caller. Not totally broken, but actually it can be pretty busted. So there's a variant of Handlock that basically revolves around playing Void Callers, a Doomguard, a Jiraxxus, and a Mal'Ganis. Basically the 3 best demons that you would love to get out, cheat out onto the field. And when Void Caller does get those cards out on the field, it is utterly ridiculous. A 9 mana card for basically for, well, let's say 1 mana, because a 3/4 for 3 mana would be reasonable. A 4 mana 3/4 is understated, obviously. So you're paying 1 mana to get any demon from your hand out on the field. It's really good when it works. It's really good. It's enough to make it constructed viable, but, you know, it's hard to play around. If you don't have silence, basically Void Caller is like, yep, I'm just going to basically summon a Mal'Ganis, and there's nothing you can do about it, so you better play silence. Was interesting while it lasted. Definitely brought demons into something that's more viable in many Warlock decks. But, you know, I think we've had enough of it. I think we've had enough of cards that just require silence in general. So, Death Rattle effects, yeah, you can go away. Whirling's ematic. On one hand, I kind of miss this card because it was more of a mage deck, but I guess some aggro shamans, like some of the Trog shamans, would run it. I don't think the best ones do, but okay, so this card, if it survives, basically wins you the game. It's, you Rockbiter it, okay, it's 12 damage to the face. You Rockbiter it twice, you Flame Tongue Totem it. You know, you can just generate so much ridiculous damage with it. It's a lot like Micro Machine, honestly. And yes, Whirling's ematic into a Power Mace was super strong for Mech Shaman, and that made the Mech Shaman deck, which hasn't been too popular for a while. And it was pretty decent while the deck lasted, although a little bit of the same tempo bullshit like a tempo mage deck is. But yeah, I think we're about done with the card. It's either basically a 3-2 that just does 3-2 things, or it's absurd and kind of takes out the game. Don't hate it. But yeah, I think we're ready for something new with Shaman. Zombie Chow. Okay, now this card is bullshit. If you're a control deck, you run this. Okay, enough said. Next card. No, kidding. The most interesting thing about this card, though, was you could play an Arcanine Soul Priest and actually deal 5 damage to your opponent. I think that was really cute. And this card is being kind of reincarnated with the Corrupted Killbot 5 mana 6/6 Death Rattle heal 8 to your opponent's face. If you get to pull that off with the Arcanine Soul Priest and deal 8 extra damage, that'll be a really cool effect. So yeah, we'll see if that comes out. But it's kind of going in line with Muster for Battle. It's just, oh, I got this on turn 1, so I get a really, really strong start, and there's nothing you can do about it other than, I don't know, Frostbolt my minion and fall behind because you couldn't play a minion on your own. And I'm sure it's been the bane of existence for a lot of face decks, given this card leaving the game does really hit control decks again, so control decks need a new option. But hey, that's what we want from a new set. We want new cards to play around with, new cards that actually are going to be viable and not just overshadowed by what was already there. So Zombie Chow definitely served its purpose, but aggro decks hate you, and I think everybody's pretty sick of you in general. Actually, that's the last card at the moment. I mean, there could be some other honorable mentions. There's a lot of cards I do miss. Let's say Neptune. I wish I actually had pulled that in a pack and got into play some kind of weird Murloc Shaman deck with that, but, you know, I'm not going to go dump hundreds of dollars on the game like some people do. I know. But, yeah, there's a lot of cool cards leaving. A lot of these cards, you know, although I'm bashing them and sending them to hell, they were cool while it lasted, but the game needs to change. The game definitely needs to change. So standard mode, the more and more I think about it, the cooler of an idea it is. So if you were a person who paid $1,600 for Dr. Boom, I don't hate you for doing that. I respect the fact that you want to play competitively. You want to make the best deck possible. That's kind of what these games are about, you know, trying your best and trying to win. But yeah, cards like those, they just need to go so that the game can stay healthy and interesting, because Dr. Boom on turn 7, we've all seen that a million times. We've seen it a million times. Piloted Shudder, you know, Mysterious Challenger. I'll be talking about Mysterious Challenger like Dr. Boom when I send Mysterious Challenger to hell in 2016 or 2017. I feel like that's a presidential promise or something. But you know, all in all, every card in the game has been interesting in some regard and, you know, kind of served a purpose, but it's time for that to change. So I've been Dark Skeleton. This was kind of a long and rambly video, so if you made it to this end, yeah, good for you. Hope you enjoyed it. In any case, I've been Dark Skeleton once again, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace, guys.